Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome back to my shop. Last time we made this welding table, fixture table, metal work table thingamabobber, and this time we're going to actually use it and make, hopefully, a quick project. So I recently swapped the motor here on my planer from a 3 horsepower to a 5 horsepower motor, and in doing so I need a new belt guard. The planer had to be raised by about 2 inches, and the pulley on the bottom there got bigger because the motor I used had a slower RPM than the motor that was in there. And making the new guard is the last thing that I need in order to finish that video. So there'll be a video on swapping this motor as soon as I get done with this at some point. So this is the current guard, or the stock guard that came with it, and this is what we're going to try and replace with something that will actually work rather than just having the belts flopping around like that. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult than if I had some more sheet metal type tooling, but we're going to make this in any way that I can with what I have. So these two pieces, they look like they are stamped. At least this one looks like it's stamped. So it was started out as one single piece, went into a form, and then the press actually folded up the sides and made this into a kind of dish shape and whatnot. Down here, this one's got a little bit of a jog in it. That just happens to be how the casting and the base kind of meet up. I think to make this easier, I'm just going to do like a little spacer and keep this thing flat, and we'll have a little fill piece kind of on the back side. So this is the stock that I'm going to use. Again, just trying to use what I already have. This is a sheet of 14 gauge, and I'm hoping that I can get everything for the guard out of this. And again, since I don't have any like sheet metal type tools, this is all going to be welded together. There's not going to be any bending, which is going to make it much more inefficient to make this. So I have the original backing plate. That's where I'm going to kind of start with, is just making the backer plate. I have this one as a rough guide. I also made a couple of circles or a couple of discs. These are the current size of the pulleys, and I have the distances apart that these shafts need to be. So I'm going to do a little bit of layout here and hopefully make up something that looks like the correct back plate. So that's the layout for the backing plate. I kept the top of this the same as the other side. This side down here got bigger, and of course the center point moved down. I left about 1.25 inches, I think, for space. So that one would kind of go on there like that. And of course this bottom pulley is mobile. It moves up and down to tension and detension the belts. So this one will be a little bit of an oblong kind of hole like this one here is. But this should be its fully tensioned position, and then I can come up to remove the belts. So I'm pretty happy with that general layout right there. So there is the backing plate, and next I just want to pop the holes in here for the shafts to come through. And I think on the original one, they were kind of planning on it being set up so you could install the back plate while the pulleys were still attached. I'm guessing that's the case. I think it might be a little ridiculous if I cut this giant hole in the backer for this bottom one, because you could still kind of get stuff in here with this big of a hole. So I think I'm going to set this up so it's just big enough for the shafts to pass through, and I might just keep the top kind of exactly the same as it was or something, and we'll cut a smaller channel down here, and I'll just cut those real quick with the plasma torch as well. So that's enough for the back plate for now. Next, I want to start working on getting the front plate for the actual cover made. And the way that they set this one up is the guards are the same size. And how they fit over each other is the outside piece, the sides are kind of flared out to create a little wider opening back here for the back plate. I am not going to be able to really do that easily. So I'm going to oversize my outside plate by maybe 1/8 or 1/4 inch or so, and that'll be the main piece for this. And then while I'm cutting this out, I'll also go ahead and start cutting strips. So for the outside, this one here is at 2 1/4, so I'll make some 2 1/4 inch strips. They'll wrap the outside here, and then for the inside, the backer plate, this one's got 1/2 inch. That might be, we'll see how easy it is to set up and cut strips that thin. If it's super annoying, what I can do is just cut a few pieces and I can put little tabs all over the place. It's just there to catch the outside piece, so that might even be just easier than even trying to cut the strips, but yeah, we'll see. I'm just gonna start laying out the next batch of pieces essentially now that we have the main part that kind of dictates everything else, and we can make a bunch of parts from here. So that should be everything we need to make this. And before I start getting all this assembled, the last thing I want to do is put in the holes for these mounting hardware things. I think it's gonna be a lot easier now. I can drill both of the plates at the same time to make sure those holes end up exactly the same on each piece. So I think I'm ready to start tacking the bands on and working around the backing plates. So I have the band attached to this square, and I have it set up so that the band is essentially flush with the surface here. So when I come off to the edge, I can hang over past the edge of the plate a little bit, and that's gonna give my weld somewhere to go. So I got some bigger pieces to kind of show what that looks like. So what I don't wanna do is I don't wanna lap my band over the plate like that, because there is nowhere for my weld to actually go. If I grind the weld away and flush it up, that would remove the welds. So what I'm doing is offsetting them more like this. That's going to give this nice little area in here for the weld to go. It'll penetrate into this piece and tie them together and live in this nice little spot here. And that should end up with maybe a nicer looking welded area. I don't know. So I'm gonna start tacking this thing on here. And then when we get to the radius, I think that's just gonna be kind of tacking and bending and tacking and bending, this kind of in little gradual pieces. And hopefully that works out okay. I've never done this before, so we'll see how that goes. And hopefully it'll take this bend just fine as a cold bend. I don't have a torch or anything to heat this up, but it's not that thick, so it should bend okay-ish. And I guess the further I get, or the more tacks I put on, the more heat I'll put into it. So that should help it bend as well, maybe. That's cool. It actually worked. Oh. That's a lot more than, holy crap. Maybe I should have pre-bent this. Okay, the moment of truth. Does this fit inside of this? Well, look at that. it actually goes. That's nice. That's one of the things I was kind of worried about. The bends, you know, they aren't perfect. They got a little bit of flat spots here and there, but it's a guard for a belt, so I don't really care too much. I did try bending this one around the radius beforehand, but this is quite a bit of material to actually bend. I couldn't get it to go nicely, so kind of working slowly. Seemed to work out just fine, but that's done. I'm gonna roll this all outside, and then we'll start welding out those seams for real, and hopefully they don't warp too much on me as I'm welding all these. And I guess technically I could leave them just like this, but welding the seams will just make it just a little cleaner looking, and you know, why not? Why not get some welding practice? And while I'm welding out those seams, I'll answer this question here from Lyle. So back in 2017 and 2018, I did a few sponsored videos for Lincoln Electric, and they sent out these units for me to use in those videos. So we have the PowerMig 210MP. This is the square wave TIG, and this is the plasma cutter. The MP stands for multi-process, so this machine will do stick, MIG, and TIG. This is a dedicated TIG machine, but it will also do stick. I used this as a stick machine when I did the trailer, so I would tack with this machine with MIG, and I would use this as a stick machine and do my stick welding, so I'd have to switch machine back and forth. That's the only thing I've used this thing for. And then the plasma torch, the number on here basically specifies how thick it can cut. If you put a decimal right in front of there, 0.625 or 5/8 of an inch thick is what it's ready to cut through. When I use this machine for MIG, I'll use it with the welding gas. That way I don't have to use a flux core wire, which I have in here in case I need it. So that's going to apply a flux for a shielding agent instead of the gas. So it's going to be very similar to stick welding, where the stick electrode has flux on it as well. And sort of the downside to that with the flux is that you end up with slag on the surface of your weld that has to be cleaned off if you want to do multiple passes, or if you just want to, you know, paint it or whatever, you have to clean that slag off. Using gas is actually really nice because it leaves you with a nice clean weld, and you can do multiple passes without having to take the time to clean up the weld between all your passes. For the welding gas, I actually have two cylinders for the MIG. I have this one here, the small one, and then this bigger one here tucked back in the corner. This one here is, I think, a 40 cubic foot, and this one here is 120. So this one stores 3 times as much gas as this one does. So this is the tank that I started with at the old shop, and this size was really nice. I can tuck it away literally anywhere and just get it out of my way when I wasn't using it. And back at the old house, I was only a few minutes away from the welding supply shop, so it was pretty quick to just go and swap this tank out anytime I needed. When I moved out here, I had more space, and it was more of a hassle to go into town and get a tank filled. So I bought the bigger tank, and I kept this one as a backup. This welder has a computer in it, so it will ask you like what process you're using, what you're welding, and what thing you're using to weld with, and it will automatically give you some default settings. Most welders, including this one, also have a chart inside the door, so you can kind of read off the chart and figure out what you want to weld. So for instance, here, if I'm doing stick welding, like I was doing on the trailer with 7018, I was doing about 1/4 inch plate most of the time, so I'd have my machine set around 150 or so. And of course, these are just kind of starting general settings, and you can kind of fine tune things to your liking. It also has all of the consumables listed here with the part numbers, which I have found to be kind of helpful because I'm good at ruining things, like tips. So that's a little bit about the welder setup. This was the second welder I ever used, and previous to this I had a Lincoln stick welder, and that is the machine that I learned on by fixing up and putting an arch on my first trailer and then building my sawmill. So those are all welded out now, and I definitely need to practice a lot more with this thinner stuff because it is pretty difficult to weld because you have to move really quick. You can't pause or you'll just like blow right through your piece you're welding, but yeah, the welds are okay. I'm going to grind all that nice and that flush anyway, so the appearance doesn't matter a whole lot. One thing I did, I clamped these down to the table to help to keep them from warping. I think this one's got enough beam strength where it's fine, it didn't move at all. This one has bowed, I don't know, maybe 3/8 of an inch or something in the middle. So I think before I start cleaning up the welds, I'm going to try and put a couple beads here on the back to help maybe like pull this back together and maybe could kind of flex this way. Hopefully pull out some of that bow. If not, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. That is significantly better. Before I could take this bar and slide it under there. Now it's sitting there nice and flat again. So that actually helped quite a bit. When weld material cools, it contracts. So if I put more heat on this side, since it was like this, it should pull the whole thing back down to flat, which it did. So that's kind of a fun little trick that usually works. A few times this works for me. So I'm going to clean these up, a lot of grinding, and get them all pretty and shiny. And then we can work on getting them actually mounted on the machine and getting those mounting holes drilled and all that stuff. So there we go, all ground down and looking a little bit nicer. They'll look even better when they're painted. But next, I'm thinking about what I want to do about this jog here and see if I actually want to put that into here. If I want to cut this and put the jog in, or I can use a piece of pipe as a spacer and do it that way. As I'm kind of looking at this though, I don't know if maybe it doesn't matter. So what I think I'm going to do is get that backing plate mounted on here. I'll get these two holes drilled in the plate first. The bottom ones I'll mark directly from the machine, and we'll see kind of how it lays on there and how it fits, because it kind of looks like it might still work just fine without that jog in that backing plate. So excitingly, on the first try, it went on there just fine, fits really nicely. The cover goes right on, and it actually has a really clean look to it. So I'm really happy with how it is so far. Does it need a step in here or a spacer in here? Yes. I mean, I could probably get away with leaving it like this, but it does kick the bottom out quite a bit. And I don't think I'll have any pulley rubbing, but I think just for the sake of making it better, I want to put a spacer in behind it. So I have the rotisserie mount from when I make the trailer. This diameter is just about right. So I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch ring off of here, and that'll get welded onto the back side of that mounting plate. And while I have that whole assembly on the planer, I'll also go ahead and mark and drill the mounting holes for the bottom of the backing plate where it mounts to the bottom of the planer, and get those drilled too. So we can do one last little test fit, and hopefully it's 100% almost done then. 100% almost done. So that's sitting on there a lot nicer. We got that spacer in there, so it's lining up nicely all the way down. I think before I call this a success though, I want to put the pulleys on, put the cover on, and see if it runs without rubbing or anything. Okay, the new shaft is sticking out a little further past where the old one used to be. That's not a huge problem because these here are the kind of stops of where the cover comes on. So I'll put a couple of like washers or spacers in here to push this out a little bit, and that should solve that problem. No big deal. There's the shaft right there. Okay, so now for the ventilation holes. I'm not going to go for the full louvers. I'm just going to come in here with the lightsaber and make a few slits, and that'll open up some space for some air. Although I don't really know if it needs that per se, but you know, why the heck not, I guess. And then once that's done, these things are ready for some paint. And at that point, we're done. The guards are done. So that takes care of that project. It's one of those weird, like, smaller projects within a bigger project. So this planer motor swap upgrade thing is now completely done with the addition of that guard. So look for the planer swap video sometime in the future when that one is done as well. But this was the last thing that I had to do to finish that up. So I feel like I'm going in the right direction. So that's gonna do it for this one. We made a quick guard, quick project. Got to use the new welding table thingamabobber. That was nice. It was very nice to not have to work on the ground. Just having an actual work surface to actually work on, it's pretty cool. You should try it. So that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments on the welding and the stuff in the shop or whatever it might be, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking. There's some woodworking stuff going on over there. Don't look too close.